How are people doing on this Monday? I'm like, somebody, Calgon, take me away. Okay, we about to see if something magical is happening here. All right. It says we're live on the Book of Faces. Are we live? Can anybody out there in the world help us know if we're live? It looks like we are live finally. Okay. Woo! What's up, folks? Monday, April 19, 2021. For the past 15 minutes, I've been having a fight with Zoom and live streaming, and they almost won. However, nevertheless, she persisted. Okay, so good evening, everyone. It is evening where I am. My name is Aysha Upchurch. I'm the founder and director of HipHopEX, and I'm joining you from Massachusetts, the land of the Massachusetts people. And I'm excited to have this conversation tonight as part of our monthly programming where we pick a theme and we reach out to amazing individuals to share with us their work in light of that theme. So really quickly, HipHopEX is a intergenerational kind of lab programming project classroom that centers hip hop as we engage folks young and a little bit older than young, centering the hip hop culture and education in that mix. We used to be live and in real person, just like everything else before COVID invited everybody to sit down, sit at home and figure it out. So we've made the pivot to doing monthly online programming. This month, it's April. It's spring, technically, at least technically where I am here in Boston. And as things warm up and people start switching over their wardrobes and figuring out how to freshen up their life and their whole practice, we're like, let's talk to some people who are doing innovative and fresh things that might be helpful for the rest of us looking for ways to make our practice more inclusive and engaging for all learners. Okay, woohoo. So having said all of that, I'm super excited to get things going and introduce our guest. And so some kind of way, y'all with me, y'all okay? My screens have just completely gone on break. That's interesting. So what we'll do is we will pull up another window. Okay, here we go. And we're back. So I want to introduce our first guest for this week. So we'll be having this conversation. We'll have a conversation today on Monday and then again on Tuesday with a different amazing dope human. But for now, we're going to get this started with none other than Tricia Gomez. And I got to say, I'm excited to have this conversation because this is real life, y'all. I just reached out to Tricia on the interwebs. It's like, I think you're doing amazing work and we'd love to center your programming on the show. And she was like, okay, well, we've never met, but I'm going to read her bio and we're going to all become best friends, cousins, and all of that. So Tricia Gomez is the creator of Hip Hop in a Box and the global director of Intellidance and RhythmWorks Integrative Dance, where she trains dance teachers and therapists to use rhythm and movement to benefit developmental growth. Tricia's unwavering dedication to education and her unique teaching methods have landed her on the Dr. Phil show. Have also and the TV show Dance Revolution as the lead judge. Ooh, yo, hey, we are. Are y'all ready for this amazingness? I hope so. As well as those amazing things. Tricia is also a teaching artist consultant for Disney Performing Arts. Okay, y'all, I need you to go ahead and put your virtual hands together for All right. Hello, Tricia. Bless you.
Hi.
I can't even tell you all what is happening for me is a lot of things that have never happened before. So I'm going to take that to mean Something beautiful is going to happen in this conversation. For those that didn't catch it, yes. For those that didn't catch it, your intro song was I Did It All. And just reading over and I know that's a miniature version of your bio. I already know that we're talking to an amazing human being who has figured out how to do many things, many amazing things that are overlapping and parallel. So I'm just so excited. We got to chit chat a little bit before going live. And I already feel like this is going to be a friendship for a minute. So Tricia, welcome. Thank you so much for your time and your patience.
Having me. Yes, I love that song just because it's so many times we hold ourselves back from doing things because we shouldn't, or it's not the normal thing to do, or it's, for whatever reason our brain tells us we shouldn't. But I have like this philosophy that I don't want to be 80 years old and thinking, what if, like what would have happened if I would have done that? And so maybe that's why I'm just way too busy with all the things that are going on, because things happen and I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, let's do that. And, it's just all about living it up and, sliding into the grave and being like, yes, we did it.
I love what you said, sliding. 2-step. Okay. So, you know what? I have to ask, since you already gave us a little bit of a throwback Cabbage Patch reference. You choose whether people are looking or not. What is your go-to dance move?
Go-to dance move. Now, if I want to make myself happy, I'm going to do some robots. Just going to like do some silly little robots just because I love it and it's silly and it makes me smile and it makes me laugh. But if I'm in a competition, like I'm just going to say if I'm at like a bar or a party or something like that, and there's like a dance competition and somebody's like talking back at me and I'm like, dance competition, you want to have a dance off? I'm dropping down to the ground and I'm gonna do me some worms and I will win. I will win because that is my move. I've been doing it since 3rd grade. No, my teacher, Miss Lunkin, 3rd grade, if we were good, she would let us push the desks back and we would have worm races at the end of class if we were able to get all of our work done. And it was me and this other guy, Mitch, we were like the 2 worm champions. And I'm a wormer.
You're a wormer. Awesome. Well, I mean, listen, I'm not gonna dare interrupt. If I see you drop down and hit the worm, I'm gonna just make space for you and be like, y'all, I don't think you're ready. All right, I'm going to take a second here because I think something is trying to like update on my computer. You know how you realize you have some programs that have a little bit of a possessive personality? They're like, I'm updating. To me. And I'm like, no. It's like, no, I'm going to update. I'm going to like ruin your whole planned life right now. And so that interrupted our auto recording. So I'm just going to record. You'll hear the recording in progress voice. But so you're a worm champion and you also maybe you robot down to the worm. And then I don't know how anybody would win, but I love the fierce, like I will win because I will win. Because it's a statement, not a question. I love that. And I imagine like some of that, like I'm going to win energy is like something that like you've had since you were a little human and still fuels your work that you're doing because you're doing a lot. And so I wonder if you could share for folks, maybe, what's behind that, like, I got this, I'm going to do it all, I'm coming out winning, and how you got to where you are and being the founder and director of these amazing dance programs. So can you just give us the story of how Tricia walked away?
I'm an only child, and my mom and dad raised me in a world of yes, you can. And so I was one of those kids that just had all the ideas. Like when it was prom time or something, I didn't want just a dress you can buy at the store. I wanted these sleeves and this thing right here and this bottom and this skirt. And bless my mom's soul, we would go to the dress shop and I'd find a pattern that had the sleeves I wanted, and a pattern that had the neckline, and like it would be 10 different patterns, and we would cut it up and put it together and make the dress that I wanted. And so I think from an early age, I was taught that if you want something, you figure it out, right? You get resourceful, you figure out what you need to do to make it happen. And it'll happen eventually. It'll be hard and it's a lot of work. It doesn't come easy, but you just figure it out and make it happen. And I think I've carried that with me through my entire life. I don't have that fear of failure. To me, failure is not something that is shameful. To me, failure is something that it's a learning exercise, right? It's kind of like, well, that didn't work. Let's try it this way now. Let's try it this way now. And then eventually you go, oh, that's how I have to do it, right? So, like I said, I'm just like a give it a try person, and let's see what happens. And through my life, I've had these, situations that have happened, health situations that have caused me to really step back and go, okay, what do I do now? How do I make it work now? And, Hip Hop in a Box came out of necessity, because at that time, this was in like the mid 2000s. So probably sometime around like 2005, I'm thinking. Well, I take that back. 2003, I got diagnosed with lupus. And at that time, I was teaching about 21 classes a week. And most of them were to kids under the age of 7. And most of them were hip hop classes to kids under the age of 7. So 3 to 7-year-olds were my bread and butter.
Woo, okay, that's just the whole, I'm just like over here like, and exhale. And you must have a secret for energy, because I just got tired.
I loved it so much. And I definitely had like a method to my madness. And then when I got sick, my doctor's like, you need to pull back. Like, you need to reduce some stress out of your life. You need to not be doing certain things. And so, I kind of started, thinking, how am I going to find someone to do what I do? Because at that time, first of all, hip hop was barely in any dance studios. It was like, I saw, it was like, it just wasn't in the studio setting, and if it was something that they were teaching as like an extra class if you were 12 and older, and it was just this side thing here. No one was teaching it to kids that young. And so to find someone to come in and teach my classes was just like I had no idea what to do. And I was talking to my friend one day, and I was like, I just wish that I had like something that I can hand over to somebody and say, here, teach this in class. And she's like, why don't you make flashcards with all of your like dance steps that you do? And I was like, I want to make flashcards. Yeah. Because the way, when you think of hip hop for 3 to 5 years old, 3 to 7-year-old, you're not teaching them a lot of style. It's really about the relationship, about movement and the body and body dynamics and, rhythm and rhyme and understanding how our body relates to the music.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the movements we would do, like we have a dance step called Put Your Pants On, right? And it looks like you're actually like putting your pants on and you pull your pants up, right? Or shoe flies. You got to shoot some, get those flies, y'all. Get the flies, right? So we had all these fun little hip-hop-y steps that we were teaching to these kids, and they all had names, and it all reminded them of things, and it was a lot of fun, and it was really easy to translate that into these cards that I could then pass on to some teachers who could translate that to younger kids. Because my problem I was having was the hip-hop specialist teachers didn't know how to teach 3-year-olds or 7-year-olds for that matter, right? And then you had your teachers who knew how to teach 3 to 7-year-olds, but they weren't hip hop specialists, right? So it was kind of like pick your battles is kind of where I started with this thought process. And like you just said, people who work with that young age is the special breed of people, right? And it's easier for me to teach someone who already knows how to relate to these kids and to teach these kids. It's easier for me to teach them what to teach than it is for me to take a hip hop specialist and teach them how to teach a 3-year-old. So that was where hip hop in a box started, was a way for me. I was like, well, I'll make it for my teachers, but I had to print 2,000 copies of them. So I was like, well, maybe somebody else will want it too. I don't know. And so we printed 2,000 copies of it, and they lived in my garage for a while. And I remember going to my first conference, and I had this booth set up with all my hip hop in the boxes. And teachers would walk by and they'd go, hip hop, it's just a fad. And then they'd keep walking, right? And I was like, I don't know about that. And then you get a few people who are like, hey, I think I could use this, right? And then it just kind of started to snowball from there. And each year, every year kind of got a little bit more recognizable and popular, and teachers were using it in fun ways. Hip hop in a box is not, it's not a specific style of hip hop. It is a series of body positions linked together, and you apply your own style to it. So it's for the kids, it's a visual reminder of what comes next in the dance. For teachers, it's an idea generator. If you get blocked on something, you just want to pull something out. It's a game. It's kids get to pick different cards and then build a dance together in class. And then you add yourself to it, right? You add your own personality and your own style, and you make it you. And so that's where it started. That was the beginning.
Thank you for sharing that Genesis story again. That I don't want to just teaching 21 classes, which for folks, if anyone out there is doesn't seem so much as a dance teacher, particularly, I don't know about you, but being in community studio and even competition studio settings, to teach 21 classes a week, it's a lot. You can sustain yourself financially, but it's a lot. And so, clearly you're doing something right to be teaching so many classes, and kudos to you for that spirit that you talked to us about around who Tricia is, to be okay, well, here's an opportunity. I can't not do anything. But I love how, even because I think one of the things, I even feel this now, right? Again, hip hop was not started in these studios. It wasn't started in these college classes that we can now bring it to. But I also find that people want to really focus on a step or the sequence of the choreography. And I love how even in your curriculum, there is style. And that's the thing, you can't teach, you can encourage, you can prod, you can coach. But I think it's important that from day one, you were helping teachers and young learners understand the relationship with the music, because that is so much of what drives the movement, and that the styling of it. So I love how you call it shoe to fly, because I'm oh, that's the WAP or the headache, but teaching it with that, but it's not going to look mechanically the same like everyone, because that's not how hip hop operates. So it's just so nice to hear how you were encouraging style, even through, something so tactile as you get a card, right? This is not that card, folks. This is just a random postcard that I have to help my camera focus. But if I got a card, I do have to think as a teacher, do I know how to coach people to get into the style and the music? And so I wonder if you can share, because I know you are, we were talking offline about how you're moving into more projects to support teaching artists. And so I wonder what you can share around what you've developed from Hip Hop in a Box into Intellidance and RhythmWorks around how to support teachers in their practice of teaching or encouraging, coaching. Sometimes I don't know the right word for it, but bodies to move when you're in a classroom with folks with varying abilities, cognitively, developmentally, physically. What have you found in what you're creating that's educators, every educator can use this boost to help make their teaching more inclusive?
I think one of the biggest things that holds us back is fear. And when we're bound by that fear, we don't want to offend somebody. We don't want to try things that might be outside the box because these fears hold us back. With the education that we provide through, specifically with RhythmWorks, who, we all have unique needs of some kind of way, whether that's through sensory, we might have sensory sensitivities or seeking behaviors that we need. There's cognitive processing, there's physical disabilities, there's, social disabilities, there's all these different domains that govern us. And we all process that differently. And, the one big thing that I don't want, that I want people to understand is it's not people who have, disabilities or special needs or labels or whatever you want to call those things. It's not them and us, or those people and these people. There is a spectrum, there's autism spectrum, right? And there's all these different variations of autism. And they say, when you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism, because everybody's different. But the human race is like that, right? So you have such a wide variety of bodies in your class, of emotional understanding, of cognitive processing, of all these different things. And the key is meeting the students where they are at that moment. As a teacher, you might have a class plan of, I'm going to teach this in class. But if you start to teach those things and you realize it's not landing with your kids, or they're not understanding what you're talking about, or they're having a difficult time making their body make that position, then you have, as a teaching artist, you have to stop and say, okay, what can I do to translate that movement onto this body that may not be able to put hands straight up in the air, right? How do I translate that into their body? Or if it's a cognitive processing breakdown, where is that breakdown happening? What is it that they're not understanding, and how can I take what I'm doing and maybe step it back a bit or simplify it enough so that they can get that base understanding? And once that's there, then start to layer on top of that until we build the skills that we need in order to do the thing we initially wanted them to do. I can think back to a class that I was teaching, and we're doing a step, we call it cross open, because you jump up, you cross your legs, you jump out, you open. So we go cross and open and cross and open. It was a disaster, an utter disaster. Like, there was no crossing of the feet. We just had kids kind of just jumping around. I had kids falling down. Like, we could have so easily said, that's too hard for them. Let's not do that. But as teaching artists, my team and I, we stepped back and we said, okay, wait a minute. It's not that they can't do it. It's just that they're not understanding what needs to be done. So how can we make that different, right? What can we do to really instill those basic concepts of what they're missing? And so we have a part of our class called Rhythm Lessons, which is we all sit down in a circle, and it's more of like a drumming. So we just it's kind of like metronome playing. And we just drum, and we have these different color pads, like a red heart, a yellow circle, a green square. And we would sit there, and we did just with our hands. One hand, unilateral movement, cross, open, or we would go red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow to the metronome. Then we would do the other hand, yellow, red, yellow, red. Once they got that, we did both hands, cross, open, cross, open. When they finally got that concept of what crossing meant, we translated it into feet. So we had them sit down and just do one foot, so that one foot would go red, yellow, red, yellow. So we took out the balance challenge because we had a lot of kids who were falling down. So cut that out. Let's teach the concept in the most secure way that we can to get. So, you're not kids don't learn unless they can experience it, right? So if they're having trouble.
Like, you better say that again.
Kids do not learn unless they experience something.
And sometimes by kids, she also means adults.
Yes, true. So we took the thing out that was causing them not to be able to experience this concept. And so we taught it with the legs, one leg, then the other leg, and then both legs. And then we stood them up when they were holding on to the bars, and then they did, one leg. Now we're standing up. We're adding a little bit more balance challenge to it. That process, eventually we got them to the middle of the floor without, the full balance and full crossing and opening, but we were doing it super slow, right? So we might have 2 beats, boom, 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 to just kind of help that cognitive processing speed to instill that concept. And then eventually we started going into quarter notes, boom, 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 boom. It took us 11 weeks to do that, from start to finish, to get our class to be able to do that one step. But man, what a journey that was. And you guys, I don't know if you are a crier when awesome things happen, but I cried my eyes out when I walked into that class and they were doing cross open, like 2 speed. And I was just like, yeah, like I probably scared everybody to death. But you know, when you're talking about working with inclusive or an inclusive setting, you got to meet the kids where they are and use your teaching artist powers and creativities to accommodate that. And that's, to me, that's way more cool and fun and juicy than like getting a double gold platinum moonbeam award at a dance competition, right? So
although I would love to have one of those on my shelf. But I mean, you should get one for your worm. But I love, Tricia, listening to that. Like, you know, you drop some nuggets. And I hope, you know, folks who are watching this live or when we post it, record it, that you take your notebook out and you catch some essentials that for folks who might be familiar with the universal design for learning type of framework. If you're not, the skinny is don't embed the means with the goal. So if the goal is to experience cross open, then you can't rely on like, oh, they don't have the balance is tripping them up. They're never going to get cross open. It's like, I think when we step back and we actually have a value, it's why you walk in the room and you're like, oh my God, yes. It's because the value is that everyone is accomplishing the big picture, but also there was this process through that scaffolding that there's other micro wins for the students and also for the educators. Oh, yeah. I would say when I've realized something isn't working, because clearly what I say, everybody's doing the thing that I didn't want. And I'm like, oh, I get to go back and sharpen my practice so that it doesn't become about like, let me get a robotic response, but how can I like make this a more rich learning environment? So I'm also growing too. And so I just think in what you shared, you're really pointing out that, and I want to hear more, especially like as a movement educator, what you see is like, as we as dancers, we know, because everybody's like, dance is so cool, it's so fun, just express yourself. And then when you go to teach dance, I think for some of us, it might, if we're paying attention, it might highlight what we have valued that has been accidentally, hopefully accidentally, exclusive, where we just value folks who, you know, are expressing like they can really entrain movement to rhythm almost automatically. And then they're a good dancer. I think for me, I learned what do I mean by being a good dancer? And is that the right language? So I wonder if you can share, because honey, I can soapbox with myself, like the lessons that I've learned about how to redefine the values and the goals of dance education for learner and teacher. I wonder, can you tell us and tell people a little bit more essentially like what RhythmWorks is and what its mission is, and then how you are redefining maybe for folks what we mean by the values and the goals of dance education so that all learners and educators can have a rich experience.
Yeah, so this may be a little bit controversial, but I think she's like, let me get my popcorn. I think passion is selfish, and let me qualify that. Passion is something that it makes us feel good, and we're good at it, right? So good dancers are passionate about dancing because they're good and it makes them feel good. And as a performer, when I was a performer in my performing days, it was all about passion. It was all about ego, right? And it was about me. And look how like badass I am right now. And, you know, I'm here dancing on a Lakers court right now as a Laker girl. And, you know, how many other people wanted this job and I'm here, right? But it's not, when we take our passion and try to force it on to other people, then we kind of get some headbutting, and it's you burn out. You burn out fast. So I think a lot of people make that jump from being a good dancer and a performer into teaching, thinking it's the same values that are related from performing and teaching, right? And when you get into the teaching space, it's not about you anymore. You know, yes, you can inspire people by your passion about something, right? But you're not going to inspire everybody. And if you're not an active participant in the teaching part, if you're just out there to teach some choreography or teach a syllabus, or, you know, this is what I got to do, these are the 8 things I have to do in class today, and you're just like regurgitating it, that is soul crushing to me, right? So I say performing was for my ego. Teaching was for my heart, because when it's from your heart, you start to bring other people into that picture with you, and it touches you in a different way. But then Rhythm Works came into my life, and that was for my soul. That was it affected me in a way that I never could have imagined. To see the power of using dance as a vehicle to help somebody jump, or to help somebody walk downstairs independently, or swing on a swing set, or climb stairs, or, you know, walk on a balance beam through dance, because of the things we did in dance, and to really see how dance done in a purposeful way, not a passionate way, passion's part of it, but a purposeful way, affected a person far outside of the dance studio. And that is powerful to me. And I think that's where, when you get into that soul teaching, that's where teaching artists live. So, you know, there's that space when it is not about you at all, but you are 100% in service of your student, and the way you teach your lessons is through dance. And that's where Rhythm Works is. So Rhythm Works, what we do is we teach you how to understand the world of someone who may have different challenges than you have. So whether it's sensory related, or cognitive related, or physically related, or like I said earlier, socially related, communication related. We have a lot of students who are nonverbal. Being able to use rhythm and rhyme and movement and music to bring new skills online is just like, there are no words that can explain the way that feels, to see how that impacts somebody. And that's purpose. So there's passion and there's purpose. Passion is part of purpose. I do a whole keynote speech about this, by the way.
Listen, I can't tell, as like my hand is cramping from like getting these Tricia nuggets of purposeful versus passion, soul teaching. Like the way you're walking this out is so beautiful. And I really I'm going to watch this and replay, because I almost was tearing up. I was like, yes, I think content, I can teach anybody something. I can teach you how to tie your shoe. Check that off the box. But it's something else in the process. I like alliteration. Mm-hmm. So we could do a co-keynote about like how process factors into purposeful versus passionate, and whether that's for the personal or for the people. Oh, I'm on a roll. Somebody stop me. Let me shut up. This your show. I'm just here for technical reasons. But when it's not about you, you said again, that passion thing is about your ego. When it's about like service, like education as a service or servicing something else, that's when the purpose, being purposeful, being intentional, and asking soul, come on, be right here. Like, I think that's so beautiful. So that you all are centering rhythm and movement as a vehicle for other learning and discovery. Yes. I'm just like, just so you know, I'm literally over here, can't read my handwriting, taking notes.
I do. Like I walk in before every class I teach, before every time I speak, I have this ritual that I do where I just surrender and say, give me the words I need, give me the lessons that I need, give me the focus I need, the ability to notice and to connect and to communicate what these people need in order that they leave, more inspired to do better and be better, and want to know better. And then you trust that. You just walk into the room and you are present and you are aware. And yeah, you have your game plan. You got to go in with a game plan, but you got to be flexible in that and really look for the moments that you can insert life lessons into that, using the art of dance.
Yeah. And I think like something, this. So this is just one choir member director speaking to another choir director or preacher or congregant. I don't know. But, I also think what I learned for folks out there who I had that path of like stumbling into teaching by being a teaching artist and being like, oh, I'm teaching now. And then, one of the things I love about hip hop is that it really values being able to freestyle, being able to kind of just create and respond. And I like to say that I feel like I'm a DJ. There's some things I can teach as a teacher, but I'm a DJ. I'm supposed to respond, give and take with the crowd, with students, the audience. And that being flexible, as you said, I hope folks here does not mean not having a plan.
Right.
Flexibility is actually, I think, as you're saying it, also part of that intentional, purposeful. I am allowing myself to be responsive to the actual humans gathered in this space for me, and not these theoretical DNA holding species called Homo sapiens, who don't bring culture, context, communication, joy, sorrow, and in between. And so hope folks hear that, like, and especially, I don't know if you felt this at some point in your teaching career as a dancer and as someone speaking the language of like hip hop dance and performance, like, oh, whatever you do, it's just going to be so cool. It's just going to be so awesome. And it's like, you want to know if I can actually teach? I literally had a teacher tell me one time, oh, the students are just relating to you because, you're also Black. And I was like, well, yeah, every day this don't come off. But I'm also a present, responsive human educator that wants people to feel heard, feel human, and feel whole while having some joy as we learn. That's why they're responding, because this educator was coming in with a rigid checklist. Did they show up? Are they looking forward? Mm-hmm. Not paying attention to the different ways of being and of knowing that are in the space. And so I'm really like resonating. I know if the world knows your secret that like Tricia could be anywhere, anytime, y'all. Don't ask Tricia where she lives. That's what I had learned. Tricia is like the dopest, like, gnome dance educator out here. So I'm gonna have to figure out where to just gather with you when it's all safe and sound so we can collaborate. Because I'm just really resonating and so thankful that you've developed RhythmWorks. Now, so how, if folks are interested in what you've said, is it like and I should ask you, like pre-COVID and now, how is it that folks are able to either onboard RhythmWorks into what they're doing or work with you and your team?
So everything's online now. We were fortunate enough to have it online pre-COVID. So when COVID all hit, we basically canceled all of our in-person and moved everything onto online, but then created a more interactive online course. So we have the on-demand course, which is about 17 hours of like mind-blowing, life-changing content, education, tools, tips. It's like jam-packed in there. But then we do a blended course that takes the same content, but we do it over a month. And at the end of each learning week, we have a live Q&A session where you get to talk to myself and Dr. Shauna, who is our behaviorist, and Deborah, who is our pediatric physical therapist, that have helped to create the program. It will not only, people come to RhythmWorks because they want to learn how to work with students who have different types of learners, different types of movers. but it helps all of your students when you start to really look at all of these different elements that play into your ability to self-regulate and to learn and to respond and to participate appropriately. These things apply to all of our students that we teach, whether they have a label or they don't, whether they're 3 or 33. It's understanding people. Like I have a color wheel theory. So, imagine, how if you're designing something and you have that color wheel and you have the little pixel you can move anywhere in the color wheel, and there's like 1,043 different colors. And if you stop in one little spot, it gives you the color code down here. So imagine that each main color is a different sense or a different way we learn or a different way we move. So maybe red is tactile input, and with touch sensation, some of us like light touch, some of us don't. Some of us like certain things with touching. Some of us are very I don't want to be touched at all. So there's a spectrum or a gradient within that red color, right? Some people are like super, super saturated in the red color. Some people are like a really pale, pale red color. And then there's cognitive processing, right? Maybe cognitive processing is yellow. And your cognitive processing speed's going to land somewhere on this yellow, spectrum, the gradient. And if you think of all these different things that contribute to our ability to learn, our ability to self-regulate and participate, communicate, all those things that are our domains that drive our lives, we all fall somewhere differently in those different color gradients, right? So when you take your own mixture of those colors, you get your own color, and you get your own color code based on how you process and your abilities with all these different things. So to me, it's not people with autism and people without autism, or people who have physical disabilities and people without physical, or people who are Catholic and people who are Muslim, or people who have black skin and people who have white skin, or people who have this or that and this. Like, there's so many different political, spectrums. We all have these different spectrums of all these things. And the way we process those things determines our color ingredients that make up our own unique color code, right? And you might be like a light green color, and I might be a medium purple color. But light green isn't better than medium purple, or vice versa, right? We just process differently. And if I understand how you process and I understand how I process, then we can be like a nice, pretty rainbow all together, right? So that to me is my philosophy with teaching students and just being like a good human in general, right? Just understanding how people operate, and that we all operate differently, and one's not better than the other one, but we respect that that's your ingredients and this is my ingredients.
And I think that part is really, really important, again, for all educators, right? Because I'm not a doctor. I could see that somebody has a certain label, right? This does not mean that I know scientifically what to do. I love what you just said. Like, we are all human, and our humanities deserve, without question, without interrogation, without defense, our humanities deserve the very best consideration, kindness, and fairness. And so, I might never understand what it's like to be a saturated purple, because I've never walked in the saturated purple shoes. But I certainly acknowledge the saturated purple. That saturated purple needs got their own little coat. I love, I'm over here hands gripping. I'm like trying to stretch out my fingers. But I think that's so beautiful. And I think so. One of the things that I learned from working in an organization that really highlights the work of artists with disabilities, and also strives to put in more arts classes inside the school day that bring students with and without disabilities together, or in substantially separate classrooms, is that it respects the variability, right? There is no one way. Like, there's not another Aysha Upchurch on this planet. And I don't know if that's unfortunate or a blessing.
I really wish there were like 4 Tricia Gomez's because man, I can use some help.
Like maybe I need more minions, but then I'm like, there's some parts of my code that I'm like, ooh, I wish I could kind of tune that. But all of that to say, like, I think it's so important that we value that regardless of how we walk or come into a space, a learning space, our humanities deserve to be respected and our desires to learn deserve to be respected. And I think as dance educators, an invitation, and I hope folks are taking this away from you, an invitation for us to examine our own practice and where we've embedded insidious ableism into our practice. We're like, make a circle with your arms. Is the goal to make a circle with your arms, or is the goal to make a circle? And for folks to experience making a circle. If there is a necessary goal for circles made with arms, that can be specific and needs to be addressed as specific. But when we making a circle with arms, the only way that the bodies can understand what a circle is, and that's where you have to go, ooh, oh, or like everybody stand. For various reasons, one never knows why someone might not be able to stand or needs not to stand at that moment. And again, like you said, that may be for any reason and not just because of a label of a certain disability. Because again, what do we know what to do with those labels, right? So I hope folks are taking away that, like, I really just wrote a lot down. But one of the other things that I hope that you can just say again for folks is I heard that you have a team, right? And team of folks who are bringing different specialty, different expertise to it. And so you've got Tricia, I did it all. Worm champion, robot expert, entrepreneur. And then you also are working with some other specialists. Can you share again a little bit about who's your team and how you all collaborate?
So my immediate team that I work with on a daily basis, I have 2 unicorns that work with me, Carly and Wendy, and they do all the things, and they've learned to read my mind, which is, I don't know if that's scary, because they're probably like, whoa, I don't know about her. Like, sometimes it's a little chaotic in here, but you know, they are the doers of the things, and they make the magic happen. So I like to think of it as I throw up all these balls in the air, and they follow behind me and catch all the balls and then organize them. So I have my 2 unicorns that are really wonderful. And then with RhythmWorks specifically, we have a team of therapists that work with us. So we have Deborah Rothman, who is a pediatric physical therapist. I have Shauna Berman, who is a BCBA, so she's a behaviorist. I have Zoe Mayu, who is an occupational therapist, along with Kimmy Davies, who is an occupational therapist. RhythmWorks, I never thought, I don't think I ever could have imagined what that training and program could have been. Here's how it worked. So I got these people around me in the most amazing way, which is a whole other story. But I wanted to understand how dance movement translated into what they were doing from a therapy side. So I rented a really nice hotel room on the beach, and I got wine and cheese and all kinds of snacks and put them in the hotel and sat them down, and I got my video camera out, and then I went through each of the Hip Hop in a Box and the 1, 2, 3 dance flashcards. And I would do like, okay, we're doing Crack a Stick. So I would do Crack a Stick, and I would have them say, oh, that would be good for trunk extension or, bilateral symmetrical coordination. And they were just like saying all these things that dance step actually embodied. And I did that for all 150 of our dance steps. And then I went back over the next 6 months and classified all 150 of the dance steps into 31 different categories. So the way it works is that if you are working with a child who says, or who has maybe like a therapeutic goal of riding a bike, then you can either work with the therapist or you can do the task analysis yourself, and you say, okay, what skills are necessary to ride a bike? So when you start thinking about that, you have weight shifting, you have single leg balancing, you have trunk extension, you have bilateral reciprocal coordination to pedal and to steer, you have mid-range control and continuation of movement and off balance. eye tracking, eye stabilization. There's like all these things, skills that are necessary to ride a bike. So what we start to do is say, okay, this kid needs to work on weight shifting. Let's pull some dance steps that have weight shifting in them. They need to work on single leg balancing. Let's pull some single leg balancing dance steps, some bilateral reciprocal dance steps. All these different things, or if they're maybe seeking vestibular input, we pull dance steps that have vestibular input in it. And there is research that shows that when you combine sound, so music, movement, and timing, so rhythm, different parts of your brain lights up at the same time. And they don't normally talk to each other. So, what fires together wires together. And when we dance, our body talks in ways that it doesn't normally talk to itself. And what we see are kids who had plateaued in therapy start dance class, and all of a sudden they start onboarding all these new skills or reaching their therapeutic goals sooner, right? And it's like I have chills right now.
I'm getting chilly.
I know. It's just the coolest application of dance. And I love that it's hip hop focused. Not so much in hip hop's like a specific style. Like if I had to say anything, it was probably closer to like a commercial hip hop. But we have movement. We use rhythm that has good, strong driving beats because that's really helpful for kids who have rhythm timing challenge issues. So songs that have good driving beats that are upbeat, that allow the kids to have a little bit more self-expression in it is it's universal, right? And it's for boys and girls and all of anyone can really enjoy it. And it's practical too, right? So like think about going to high school dances or something like that. Like you don't really like bust out ballet at a high school dance. Like they're typically gonna play a little bit more like upbeat, maybe clubby, hip hoppy type songs. So having some moves in your back pocket and understanding how to interpret rhythm
is helpful. Sometimes you gotta soda shot, and what are you gonna do? It's just gonna happen. But I mean, I'm like, so I can't find the words because I just love learning about the process for developing the intentionality of what rhythm works is. And again, I think that goes back to like when you were saying it's purposeful. So I think sometimes we kind of know, and it's not to say that what folks know and find without the benefit of knowing the science and the research behind it is not valid. But I think it's so powerful to hear from you that you worked in intentional collaboration with these other amazing humans to be able to be like, well, let's be intentional around sequencing these types of movements. Yes, which will give you some social kind of participation and like being trendy or on trend or understanding that with a movement, but also like it's helping accomplish these other therapeutic goals. I think that is so amazing. I'm like, I want to be a fantastic fly on the wall of rhythm works happening, or even just like to hear how you developed it over time. It's just so beautiful. And I'm glad that you all were already having an online presence, and now I'm sure that's really been very helpful for so many folks. And it's as we think about whatever this next phase or experience of being on the planet, while this health crisis is still existing, but we're experiencing some trending in a positive direction, I'm like cautiously saying. No, across everything. What are you excited to have learned from this time around rhythm works, around Intellidance, just around what you're doing that is gonna be super helpful for folks, for the organizations moving forward, maybe as we get back to a little bit more of in-person interaction? What are you holding on to and excited to keep developing from here?
Gosh, there's so many opportunities that have come up. And for me, one of the biggest lessons that I learned is I did not have to fly and be on the road 200 plus days a year to make it happen, to connect with people. Like we are still able to connect with people online, even though we're not in person. We still can connect and we can still get the information out there so that when those teachers can go out and start having, in-person classes, then they can bring in a bigger circle of people and really open their doors. With Intellidance, that's something new from us. It's an existing program that we recently became the exclusive global providers for that certification. And Intellidance isn't necessarily hip hop related, but it's very rhyme and rhythm related, and it starts at age 3 months, babies. And it really, the reason we took it on is it has a lot of the same purposeful intentions behind why we do what we do in those classes. It's all about development, and rhyme and rhythm are just, there's so much that happens in the brain with that. And so when I had the opportunity to partner up with Jessica with Intellidance, I was like, this is a no-brainer. Like, this is so needed, and to have an opportunity to take what we do in Rhythm Works and those philosophies and even bring it down to such a young age where kids are so pliable, and they're learning so much, and to be able to give those experiences to kids so that they can develop, that to me is super, super exciting. One of the things that I noticed during this time frame is there are some amazing teachers out there who have really great ideas, and but they don't have a platform to get them out to people. Like, I feel like there's people that know a lot of things that other teachers need to know too.
Right.
But but there was no place for them to get it out there. With building Rhythm Works, I built this program, and then once it was baked and done, then I became a full-time marketer, right? Like, that's all I do.
Congratulations.
Right? So, not everybody has time to do that, or the ability to do that. So we're creating Teaching Artist Exchange right now, which is going to be a big marketplace. So think of it as like Etsy for the dance teacher world, kind of like Teachers Pay Teachers maybe, but specifically for dance teachers in the studio setting or in the school setting. And if you have lesson plans that you want to share with people and sell and make some money on the side, you can open up your own store. If you have coloring pages you've drawn, if you have books you've done, I know a lot of people who like make music, like instrumental beats and things like that. You can put your music up on there.
Awesome.
Videos like, hey, here's 10 fun things to do with a hula hoop. Like just any kind of creative thing, like props. Just all these people have all these really great things, but no way to get it out there. So there's a really big marketplace so people can get it out there, exchange information, and make some money on the side for themselves.
This is amazing. I should not be surprised because from the jump, Tricia, you are like,
I'm having brain aneurysms over this project right now because it is so challenging to.
Well, it's no small feat, but again, kudos to you for citing an area of need. And it also shows like you're thinking about like, not just, this isn't like, oh, my passion. Because there's not a whole lot of room and ego for like, I'm setting up an Etsy platform for dance teaching artists. Like, that just sounds like a monumental task, but it's needed. And it's so beautiful for you to put out there and to say, hey, I've learned some things and I want to help other dance educators get what they've learned and what they're doing out there. So do you have, I know usually new music tends to be dropped on a Tuesday and it's a Monday, but do you have like a anticipation date or that you're working towards to get this going?
Oh gosh, I think by the end.
I don't want to say it. I don't want to be accountable to it.
No, I will be accountable because this is what I do. I always say things and I'm like, well, I said it on Facebook, so I got to do it. Right. So there is a conference that I'm going to at the end of July and it will be ready by then. So I'm hoping about a week or two away from starting our beta testing with a handful of sellers globally to figure out how the shipping's going to work, how taxes work, how payments work, how all the little intricate things that you never think about, how all of those things are going to work. And then once we beta test that for probably about a month or so, we'll probably start to do a soft open. at
Okay.
that point, and then wah, 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 and at the end of July. Ah!
I wrote end of July. We're gonna see if you was July or not. No, just kidding. You got this. Okay, all right. So clearly you and I can kiki and talk, and I know that we're gonna probably get a chance to continue chatting with each other and hopefully collaborating. But I want to ask just like a couple of quick fire questions. I know there's no preparation. All right. So you have had the experience and pleasure of dancing on front of large stages, and like as a former Laker girl, which I feel like maybe there's a different way to call these things. Anyway, that's for another time. Okay, so you've been on an arena with lots of eyes and stages. Okay, so if you had the opportunity to like be on stage with an artist, like a large stage for you, huh?
Missy Elliott.
Oh my! So are you me? Am I you? I love her. How much I love her.
Like, literally, like I have accomplished everything I have set myself up to do except dance with Missy Elliott.
Okay, all right. So okay, okay, all right, yes.
I have dreams about it. I have dreams. I go to her concert and they're like, "We're down a dancer." And I'm like, "I can do it."
And I have dreams that we're just like me and Missy are friends. And she's like, "I got you. Like I'm here. Like what you need?" I'm like, okay. So dear universe, anybody who's watching, on this day, Aysha Upchurch and Tricia Gomez are just saying and manifesting on a Movement Monday that the other M missing in this alliteration is Missy Elliott. Missy, we love you. I might love you uncomfortably a little bit too much, but come on with your cousins. Let's do something together. Woo! Okay. All right. Okay. So that was that. So if you had to hit the stage with somebody, it would be Missy Elliott. This is like, because I know you've traveled a bit. Where's one place that you haven't gone that you're like, you can't wait to go?
Iceland.
Yes, you are ready. Okay.
It's one of my next places once the world reopens.
Okay. All right. And so, okay, that can happen. Also, Iceland used to really have the nice like flights, at least out of the East Coast. So I feel like I expect to see some photos of you in Iceland on the interwebs. Okay, last thing. You have created a whole curriculum with like dance cards and like creating dance movements, or taking the dance steps, party steps to have a name and like giving them another name, right? So if a dance step was to be named the Tricia, what would it look like? You are I get you.
Oh, you should ask, I don't know, ask my friends. Like, I don't know what I do. I don't know.
Well, you've done this a few times.
I do this a lot. Like, this is my thing. Like, I have a grounding exercise that I do when I feel like a little nervous, or maybe I'm tired or I need to wake up or whatever, but it just like regulates me. And it's this.
Okay. So when we do our Missy Elliott collaboration, we're gonna take just notice how you got it swagged up that quickly. It went from I don't know to like hey, I did with a Tricia. I love it.
And I'm gonna say this real quick. Getting back to the whole Autism Awareness Month, a lot of kids who have autism have, they have their little quirks that they do, or certain, whatever it is. And it might be hand flapping or something like that. But one of the things we do is we can take those things and turn them into a dance step and make it cool and fun to do that, right? And so like this hand flapping is something that a child with autism does to self-regulate. I started doing it as a dance step and I was like, this feels really good. And like, I took that on as like my thing to do to help me self-regulate a lot. So just because somebody might do something that might be a little like quote unquote unconventional or strange, serves a purpose, right? So Try it yourself, see how it feels when you do it. You might be like, oh, this kind of feels good. I'm gonna keep this in my bag of tricks.
There you go. I love it. And I thank you for bringing us back to that. And as you pointed out, like as we are having awareness on autism for April, and hopefully not just April, but that we also, for those who may be less versed or familiar with what autism is or spectrum or the spectrum, that we also remember, as you said, not to pigeonhole one person's experience as the fill in the blank. Like nothing is monolithic, like absolutely nothing, and no one is a monolith. But that also that movement that students or folks might find themselves doing for various reasons don't have to feel so, we don't have to ostracize and negatively exceptionalize that movement, right? We are bodies that were made to move. I believe it firmly, every single body literally moves because that's what we're designed to do. And to make sure that our practice, particularly as dance educators, doesn't stigmatize how one person or how a few people may move, and how can we find a way to embrace it. So thank you for bringing us back to that. I definitely look forward to us doing the Tricia with Missy in Iceland. There, I said it. Manifest, manifest, manifest. Well, I feel like I got a new homie, best friend, cousin. I just want to thank you so much for spending time, and thank you for your patience as Zoom and Facebook were like, I'm not gonna go live. I'm gonna record. Well, I'm not gonna go live. Well, I'm not gonna record. Well, let's black out her screens right now, y'all. It was a lot, but I think whatever was trying to prevent these nuggets of wisdom from getting on the air, we have reset that. Folks, please, where can people find you, find out more? Like what's your online presence so folks can find out more about Rhythm Works?
So Facebook, you can find me on Facebook, Tricia Gomez, or just, is it Tricia Gomez? Search for Tricia Gomez. I have Tricia Gomez and I have Tricia Gomez Luzio. Don't do the Luzio one, just do the Tricia Gomez. It's purple and I'm like jumping back on the side. I live on Facebook. I do have an Instagram, RhythmWorks ID, but I don't check it. I almost missed this interview because I don't check it. But it was meant to be. My assistant was like, "Did you see that Instagram message?" I was like, "Oh no." She's like, "You better look at it."
Thank you, assistant.
Yeah. RhythmWorks ID, RHYTHM. Nobody knows how to spell rhythm. So I turned it into a little beat. RHYTHM, worksid.com. And then intellidancemethod.com. And that's where you can find me.
Perfect. Well, I love that you're living us with rhythm. Tomorrow we're going to pick up and speak with another innovative educator, Austin Martin, who is the founder of Rhymes with Reason, which is like rhythm and rap and how that's been impacting and helping students with literacy. And so there's some type of rhythm thread for this week. So RHYTHL, we needed that. But again, thank you, Tricia. Thanks, folks. Just a quick note, HipHopEX is preparing to launch our 5th annual Can't Stop Hip Hop conference. It'll be online, of course, May 21st and 22nd. You can check out our Facebook page. Go to can'tstophiphop.org for more information. It should be an incredible experience. So we're happy to keep that going even in these virtual times. Thanks again, Tricia. Folks, we are going to sign off from here. Please, whatever you do, dance it out and love on somebody. Peace out. As we do the Tricia out. Get it.